CJ100 class for spring 2025. All right, so I'm going to be showing you some things on Blackboard, and I also have a PowerPoint, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm making a video for an in-person class. So um, let's get started with the PowerPoint slide. So you'll see here that today's focus is introduction. So introducing you to me, to the class, all that good stuff. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about an assignment that you'll be doing this semester called the Discussion Leader Project. All right. And this is how the PowerPoints for our class will typically look. You'll know what the topic is going to be. I always have a reminder of when we meet and where our classroom is and all that stuff. And then I like to give you an agenda of what we'll be covering. And this is true for my in-person PowerPoints as well. So I'll do an introduction, an overview of the class. I'll talk briefly about the Discussion Leader Project. And then normally I'll have an exit pass and reminders. Obviously, the exit pass, since I'm pre-recording this, is just sort of for an FYI for you all to be aware of so that you're already used to knowing that that is a part of our agenda on a daily basis. Excuse me. So, introductions. I always say I'll never ask my students to do anything I wouldn't do. So, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, and I'm going to ask you to talk about where you're from, your education background, why you're here, one thing you want to learn about, and one fun fact. So here I am with my cat, Lila. She's my favorite TA, I always say, because I got her basically the first year I started teaching college classes years ago when I was at West Virginia University. And so that's sort of my family. So I always think it's nice to start there. All right. I am originally from Central Ohio, born and raised. I completed my bachelor degree at Ohio State. We're actually going up for the national championships in football. So yay, go Bucks. And then I did my master's at West Virginia University where I got Lila. And I completed my PhD at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. So that's why you call me Dr. Liebreich. And so that's where that title comes from. I earned it. And then I'm here to teach and learn from others. So I always view the educational experience as reciprocal. I don't expect to stand in front of the podium and talk at you and lecture all the time. I also expect that there will be a lot of rich discussion throughout the semester where I'm learning from students, especially because a lot of my research, I look at youth subcultures, and in particular, youth subcultures that exist on college campuses. So in a lot of ways, you all as college students and young people are experts on areas that I research. So that can come into play sometimes, especially when we're thinking about some of the behaviors that happen on college campuses amongst young people and what that means in terms of the criminal justice system. All right. I also want to learn more about Elmhurst, so the Elmhurst community as well as the university, because this is my first year as faculty here. So I'm still adjusting and getting used to where things are located, how things operate on a day-to-day basis, and stuff like that. And that's also my fun fact. It's my first year. I like to joke that I'm a freshman. So I know this is a lower division class. Probably many of you are in your first year as well. So if you ever have a question institutionally about where to go for something, I may not necessarily have an answer for you right away, but I love learning new things. I will help you figure it out. And that's part of the fun of being a first year together. So let's learn together. All right. And so in a little bit, I'm going to have you all introduce yourselves to a neighbor, and I want you to sort of go through all of this stuff. If you are a true freshman, this is your first year in college, you can just say where you went to high school. Maybe you're a transfer student and you want to include that information. However you want to interpret these bullet points is up to you. All right. Oh, and if you're here just because you need the class for your major or because it fit with your schedule, that's fine. You don't have to come up with anything exciting. So just FYI. All right. Overview of the class. So you all have access to the syllabus. It's available to download on Blackboard. And if you need a paper copy of the syllabus, I'm happy to print that out for you. However, I don't print out syllabi for everyone. So make sure that you ask me for it and I will do that. Trying to save some trees where I can, but I'm happy to accommodate you if you want to have that hard copy. All right. So these things here, these bullet points that we're going to go over, these are sort of the things that students want to know about. I'm not going to sit here and read the syllabus for you verbatim. That's actually going to be one of your reading assignments for the first day of class, or I guess the first week of class, because my expectation is that students will read the syllabus all the way through. And then after they've done that and you've followed up with any questions you might have, you're actually going to sign one of the last pages of the syllabus, which is a syllabus agreement, this item here. And that's just saying that you understand what the expectations are for our class, for grading, for assignments, and things like that. You've asked me questions, and we're both operating under the assumption that everyone in this room has read everything and they know what to expect throughout the semester. All right. So we'll just kind of start from the top. So, class content alert. In the field of criminal justice, we do cover topics that can be hard to sit with. So, especially with my research, sometimes the topic of campus sexual assault, for example, comes up. I just like to make students aware of that from day one, because if that makes you uncomfortable for any reason, you always have the option of getting up, taking a walk, getting a snack. There are vending machines in here, I believe, getting a glass of water. Do whatever you need to do. And you don't need to ask permission to go to the bathroom or get up or do whatever you need to do. In fact, let's say you get a really important call that you need to take. Just step outside. You don't need to ask permission. Have that important phone call and then come back to class and be as least distracting as possible to your classmates, right? Everyone's paying to be here with tuition, so we want to be respectful. But always feel free to leave if you need to for whatever reason. So just sort of be aware of that. And because of the nature of my research, sometimes those types of topics, sort of triggering topics, come up a little bit more in my classes than maybe someone else's classes where they don't study things that can be hard to sit with. So I just like to make students aware. As far as assignments and grading, so you will have textbook chapter reviews that are due regularly. There is a course schedule with all those due dates at the end of your syllabus if you would like to write those down, maybe in an agenda or something like that. You will also have in-class free writes. So those two assignment types, the chapter reviews and the in-class free writes, each one is worth 10 points. And you need to do 5 of each assignment type in order to earn all the possible points at the end of the semester. So at the end of the semester, you'll have 50 points that are counting toward your chapter reviews and 50 points that are counting toward your in-class free writes. So there'll be 5 total. They're worth 10 points. And they're sort of sporadic throughout the semester. Now, the chapter reviews are sort of like homework. You do them on your own time after you've completed the chapters. I'll have a guideline that you can use if you want to, where you fill out the information based off that guideline for a particular chapter, and then you submit those notes for your chapter review. However, it's really just for you to demonstrate to me that you're reading the textbook and you're keeping up with the chapters that are on the course schedule. So if you take notes differently than the guide I've given you, you can submit your notes for the chapter reviews however you're used to. I want the chapter reviews to benefit you. I want them to be something useful so that when it comes time to take the midterm exam and the final exam, your notes you've been taking for the chapter reviews are beneficial for you when you're studying. And then the in-class free writes, these are also assignments where you're demonstrating that you're doing the readings and you're keeping up with lecture material and you're showing up regularly. However, they're in class. So that means you have to be in class on time. There's a 5-minute grace period. And if you aren't, then you can't make up that in-class free write unless you are missing class for a university excused absence, like you're going to a conference with another professor or something like that. Now, with that being said, there will be at least one additional in-class free write, so a sixth in-class free write that you only have to do if you have a 0 for a earlier in-class free write. So let's say you miss in-class free write 3, you were sick, you weren't in class that day, then you just do in-class free write 6 at the end of the semester, which is optional, and that score for in-class free write 6 will replace the 0 that you initially got for in-class free write 3. So there's always an opportunity to still earn that full 50 points that you need toward in-class free writes, even if you miss class here or there. However, the point of the in-class free writes in part is to make sure that students are coming to class regularly. So in addition to taking attendance every class period, this is another way to sort of check in on that. All right. Important class policies. There's all sorts of important class policies, including my commitment to anti-oppression, which we'll talk about a little bit more in person. My extension policies in there. If you need to ask for an extension, I always ask that you do that before the due date. That way we can agree upon the terms of your extension, and we have that in writing before the assignment, the initial due date comes into play. What else? If you submit something late, my policy is a little bit different. You can submit late work to me up to a week after the original due date for up to 50%. So I don't take off additional points for each day that an assignment is late. I want to give you that full week so you can really work on getting your late assignment submitted to me in a really submit it well and get as many points as you possibly can, so that full 50%. I do take attendance, so make sure you check out my attendance policy. And like I said, the class schedule is at the end of the syllabus, so you can see where all the assignments are due. And then again, once you've read through everything this week, you make sure you submit your signed class agreement. Now this here, I have questions. So at the end, after you've watched this video and we've gone over some other stuff in person, you'll get the opportunity to sort of browse everything in the syllabus and ask me questions about anything that might be different or something you're not used to. All right, so I think that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what students care the most about. Like I said, if you have questions about any of this stuff, I will tell you more about that and answer any questions at the end of class. Okay. So, why am I making a video on Blackboard for an in-person class? Well, it's because, as I said earlier, I'm never going to ask my students to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And so this semester, I'm experimenting with having you do videos, which will be the major component for your discussion leader project. Now, I've had students do discussion leader projects in the past, but they've always done them in person. The reason why I'm introducing the video component is sort of two reasons. One, it'll help students stay concise. So I want your videos for your discussion leader projects to be approximately 5 minutes. If you get into the 6-minute zone even, I will actually have you edit it down before you do your discussion leader project in front of the class. The other reason, though, the more important reason, is because I always want to have my students walk away from my classes having usable skill sets. So when I was a sociology major in college, I struggled to articulate to people what it is I could do with my bachelor degree in sociology. And I think that's still true for sociology, criminology, and even to a certain extent, criminal justice. So I know a lot of people think criminal justice and you're going to do something in the criminal justice system. You're going to be a police officer or you're going to work in prisons or something like that. But the reality is that students with those 3 majors do all sorts of things when they graduate. So maybe they work at nonprofits, maybe they work for a government entity, bureaucracies, all public sector, private sector, all sorts of careers. And so I want you to be able to leave Elmhurst saying to potential future employers, here are some of the usable skill sets I developed as a student at Elmhurst that'll be beneficial to you and your organization. So you can say, I know how to lead discussions about tough conversations, and I know how to use the software necessary to create tutorial videos and that sort of thing for your company, for your organization. So your discussion leader project will be similar to the video I'm making now. You will pre-record a video with a PowerPoint like this. I highly encourage you to use the website Loom, loom.com, to create your video because it's free if you have a .edu email address, which you all do. And I think that it does a nice job of showing your face and allowing you to pull from websites or PowerPoints and things like that. You'll start by introducing yourself just because I really want everyone to try and learn each other's names and get to know each other throughout the semester. That way, when we're doing group discussions and things like that, you actually know each other a little bit and feel more comfortable and have that rapport with each other. And then I want you to give an overview of whatever topics are on the course schedule for the day that you get scheduled to do your discussion leader project. So how does the thing that you're going to focus in on connect to some of the overarching topics that are being covered in the chapters that are scheduled for the day that you're doing your discussion leader project? And then you'll hone in on a specific one or two terms from that chapter that most interest you. And you'll sort of explain all of that to the class in your video. So we'll start the class with your discussion leader video, and it'll sort of set the tone for either lecture. I'll try to connect what you talked about in your video because you'll be giving it to me early, so I'll be able to watch it and know what you talked about to my lecture. Or it might get incorporated into class discussion if we're doing more of a discussion-based class that day. The most important thing about the discussion leader project is you need to end your video with 1 to 2 discussion questions that we can use to facilitate dialogue, either as a class if we decide to do class discussion or in small groups, depending on what the class decides. So those are sort of the nuts and bolts of your discussion leader project. I will have a rubric for that assignment on Blackboard that you can take a look at. I think the most important thing to know is that you're going to be creating a video, and I will do a demonstration in class on how to use Loom, how to upload your Loom download to YouTube to make it accessible, how to do all that stuff. And then you also have to have a PowerPoint, a short PowerPoint, the way I do here. Those are sort of the two big things that you'll need to submit to me when you're discussion leader. And then the other important thing is everyone will sign up for a different day to be discussion leader. And that will then determine what chapters and what topics that you need to cover for your day. That sign up will go around later this week. Start thinking about if you have anything planned where you know ahead of time you're missing class, because you don't want to sign up for a day where you know you're going to miss class. Maybe you're a student athlete. Maybe it's your grandmother's 70th birthday. I don't know. You all have lives outside of here. You're adults, and I expect you to plan accordingly. So just know that if you sign up for a day and then you're not here, unless there's extreme circumstances, I really do expect you to be here on time for the day that you sign up. So I think that's all I have for this video. Exit pass. This is always part of my agenda. So at the end of each class, I end about 5 minutes early so that I can send you all a Google form link. And then that is where you will give me anonymous feedback about the class. So it is anonymous. It's not tied to any email address, even if you have a Gmail account. And all it is I ask you questions about, how assignments are going, how class went, things like that. And it's my way of checking in with you to see what went well, what could be improved in the future. Maybe this particular class of students really enjoys a large class discussion compared to small group discussion. So sometimes preferences like that really matter with different groups of students. So I always pay attention to stuff like that. I'll send that link out to you at the end of each class on Blackboard using the announcements feature where it'll get emailed to you. And then you'll have a few minutes before our class session ends to complete that, so you don't have to do it on your own time. But if you're ever running late, like let's say you're finishing up in-class free write, and you don't have time to do your exit pass, you can always do it an hour or so after class. All right. And then I always like to end with reminders. So remember to complete the readings on the syllabus schedule, which includes reading the syllabus all the way through, and then signing your class agreement and submitting that signed agreement to me. on Blackboard. Other than that, have a nice week. I'm glad you all are here, and I look forward to getting to know you all. The last thing that I suppose I should do, even though this is a in-person class, I do utilize Blackboard quite a bit. So I'm going to go into student preview and show you sort of what our class will look like. Now, I will say I haven't fully built out our Blackboard yet because this is actually J-term, but this is the same class of CJ 100 that I taught in the fall. And I always design my classes in very similar ways. So you can see there's a syllabus tab. Important documents. This is where you'll find the guidelines for the chapter reviews as well as rubrics for things like the discussion leader project, sorry, and where you'll find things like the midterm and final exam study guides. There'll be folders for you to submit your in-class fee writes, your textbook chapter reviews, and other assignments. So things like your discussion leader project, that would be the big one. And then again, there's a final exam and a midterm, which will also actually be on here. The PowerPoints are available before each class. You just click on the week and then you'll see all the PowerPoints for that week are available. The only caveat would be if someone is discussion leader and you liked something on their slide, that's their intellectual property. It's not mine. So even if it's incorporated into class discussion and class lecture, that would not be something I share with you. But all my PowerPoints are available to you. All right. So I am going to go ahead and hop off here. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.